Today we're talking about some major changes possibly happening to TNA and a huge possible announcement from TNA. Also, CM Punk, Trick Williams, and we got to talk about a WWE star backstage at AEW. It's all coming up right here on the Ango Show. Yes. All right, y'all, I want to kick things off with CM Punk and Trick Williams. But first, let me just tell you guys, there is a giveaway on the channel at 100,000 subscribers. If you guys are interested, I'm giving away a World Heavyweight Championship replica belt. But nonetheless, I want to talk about this because, well, I think a lot of people have smeared CM Punk's name, and we have talked about all of those controversies surrounding CM Punk. So when something nice is being said about CM Punk, I'm also going to share the story with you guys. Trick Williams recently spoke with Adrian Hernandez to promote WWE NXT Battleground, and a lot of great stuff in this interview. But basically, I want to talk about what Trick had to say about CM Punk. When talking about CM Punk, he says, mentor is a perfect way to put it, man. He has been a blessing for all of us who would like to take the time to actually go and talk to him and reach out to him. He's helped me with a few things that I feel like if the crowd knew about it, it would be very grateful that they would be very grateful that he did. Excuse me. I'll just leave it there. Shout out to CM Punk. He's been a positive light for all of us here in NXT. And man, I'm super glad he said this because I do want to question certain things here. And I'm just being honest. It's the way I've seen things. And part of this is discussing some of the things that I said in the past in regards to the CM Punk drama in AEW. The day that it happened with the Elite and CM Punk, there was these reports that something had gone down. And in that live stream, I specifically talked about things are about to get messy. There's 3 different variations of this story, and every story has a little bit of truth to it. But at the same time, too, I said, if CM Punk gets suspended, then the Elite should be suspended. If CM Punk gets fired, the Elite should be fired. I maintained that throughout all the drama in AEW for a very good reason. Because I believe if there's fights backstage and it gets really messy and chaotic, instead of picking sides, you let them all suffer the same punishment. It doesn't matter who started what or didn't start anything because these are not children. These are grown adults. There was a lot of talk about CM Punk and threatening Tony Khan. Tony Khan and AEW showed the footage, and I think most of us saw that CM Punk didn't put Punk's life in danger. I think there was a very big narrative against CM Punk in AEW. Quite frankly, I think a lot of people who were friends with Colt Cabana had an issue with CM Punk. And I think a lot of people were sabotaging the product itself by going into business for themselves in order to help get CM Punk out of there. It's 2024. CM Punk is no longer in AEW. A lot of people tried to convince me in my comment section that CM Punk was going to have the same issue in WWE. And look, I'm not going to sit here and say that's not possible. But what I will say is this. I do believe that there are a lot more positive stories about CM Punk in WWE, and maybe it's intentional. I don't know. I'm not ignorant to the fact that it could be. But I think CM Punk has always wanted to be a helpful person in the wrestling industry. I do believe that. It's been very evident by the way he approached Cora Jade and Roxanne Perez and all of these others in NXT where he's been trying to help out. It's just something that needs to be said. I want to turn our attention to Rhea Ripley. This is actually a really funny story to me because I think a lot of people are really blowing this out of order. Rhea Ripley, according to Fightful Select, was spotted backstage at AEW Dynamite this past week. Rhea Ripley is in love with Buddy Murphy. I don't see how this is even a conversation that has to be had. And it's funny because there's been a lot of talk about Becky leaving WWE potentially. And I don't know if Becky's going to stay or leave or whatever. But everybody says, well, Seth Rollins is in WWE. Why would she leave her husband? Why would Ricochet leave Samantha Irving in WWE if Ricochet is going to go to AEW? A lot of people just can't seem to grasp this idea that this is a job. And Yeah, it might make more sense to work with your significant other, especially if you're traveling 200 plus days out of the year. Of course, I'm not stupid to that. But I do want to point out that it's not uncommon for people to have relationships with other people in other companies. Rhea Ripley showing up in AEW does not tell me, or it doesn't suggest anything to me that Rhea Ripley would be leaving WWE at some point. Like, it just doesn't make sense why this is even a conversation. Obviously, it's interesting for the fact that anytime you hear of somebody going to the opposing company backstage, I mean, of course, it sounds kind of weird. I know the reaction to Ricky Starks being at WWE was slightly weird, or maybe even QT Marshall. But guys, the tribalism doesn't exist within the backstage roster, like at all. Like the roster that's backstage, the people that are hanging out backstage, man, they're friends and in relationships with people across both companies. It's so silly that in 2024, this is even something that has to be discussed, but it does. And I just want you guys to know that if you're getting to the point where you are starting to feel like Rhea Ripley is turning on WWE by doing this, maybe it's just cutting a little too deep for you, and maybe it might not be good to keep watching, because that's just not a healthy way to think. Rhea Ripley is literally in a relationship with Buddy Murphy or Buddy Matthews, whatever, right? That's my point. So with that being said, we'll keep it moving. TNA could be gearing up to make some incredibly big changes, and I'm very excited about this. There's two things I want to talk about. One is Bound for Glory. So Mike Johnson talking about this from PW Insider Elite. He says, I heard some rumors that there was talk of Bound for Glory being an international show, not in the United States, not in Canada, not in Mexico. So it's pretty obvious they're talking about going to Europe. I don't know whether that's the plan or not anymore. It's something that was bounced around in recent weeks. That's really cool. I like the idea of Bound for Glory going to potentially the UK. UK and TNA have a really great relationship. The UK fans love TNA. It would be cool for TNA to kind of get out of North America for a little bit. Obviously, that's really cool. Another thing that's really unique is PW Insider reporting that they have heard that TNA is trying to lock in a new permanent location where they could produce television, perhaps even weekly. Now, this is a story that I talked about a little bit over a year ago. I spoke about this over a year ago, and I know that a year ago it was brought to my attention that TNA was looking at doing this move. Now, part of that included better production and stuff like that, and I feel like we saw a little bit of production changes, but for the most part, they weren't drastic. Obviously, TNA started to travel Tampa, Kentucky, Canada, whatever it may be. My point that I'm trying to make, though, is that this is not a new idea or something being brought up to move, forward with, right? Like, this is something that's been contemplated before. Now, I personally reached out to my sources in TNA after reading this, because obviously this is 2024. It's been a year later. I reached out to my sources at TNA and I asked, hey, is there any validity to this? Is there any update on this? Like, this was something that we spoke about before. Is this something that could potentially be happening? And the word that I got back was that there has been no update made. I'm not saying PW Insider is wrong. What I'm saying is that if PW Insider knows that this is happening, there is a chance that not a lot of people in TNA know that it's happening. My personal opinion is they should be going live every Thursday. Having their own venue would be great. I would love for them to be in Orlando. I would love, love, love for them to be in Orlando, considering that Orlando loves TNA. That's the original home. I don't think it gets any better than that. I think TNA is a great product. They're working with WWE right now. Obviously, they're trying to cut costs. They're trying to be running more efficiently. I think going live and having a place where they can do that every week would be amazing. That's just my opinion. That's the way I see it. And then when they do pay-per-views, they should travel. That's what I would like to see. Let me know what you guys would like to see. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the Ango Show.